Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I am your host, Dr. Maury Mosfitz, with my all-time most favorite, most best co-host, Jen Albanese. Hello, Jen.
Hello, Dr. Mosfitz. Welcome,
Every
everybody,
episode,
to the
you're
podcast.
trying to get me to laugh when you start, by the way.
Well, I don't know, are we supposed to be if you're watching and you're not listening and you're on YouTube, what's your face like when we first start? We're like,
just smile. That's all you need to do. You don't need to make crazy faces or try and get me to laugh. You can just smile.
No, it's funny. It's
when
fun
we
to
first
do that,
started
Maury.
doing the podcast, you said that I had an angry face, so I typically try and smile.
You do. I know we always make weird faces. It's funny when we look at all the clips and stuff. Our faces are always like, "What are we doing?"
Well, we get through it. So today, Justyn Knight, a special human being, nicest person, but an amazing athlete, which is pretty incredible.
Athlete, Olympian,
long distance runner,
yes.
Olympian, represents Canada. Done amazing things when he was a college student and won multiple NCAA titles, won a national championship for a team. So amazing guy.
Amazing guy. Going to be such a good conversation. Yeah, I'm excited too. It'll be great.
So we were starting out, and the question is, if you were going to be a professional athlete, what sport would you be trying to be a professional athlete in?
I don't know. That's a hard one. We've talked before, obviously, I played basketball in high school.
Yes, but I don't know if that's your sport.
I think that's going to be the sport for me. If anyone knows me, I'm not even 5 foot. So that's probably not going to work. I don't know what, probably golf.
Yeah.
I love golfing. I'm not amazing at it by any means. But I think that's a sport where if you really just work at it and practice, there has to be some natural talent there. Obviously, if you look at current world of golf, there's got to be some natural God-given talent there. But
you got to get your 10,000 hours in.
Exactly. But I feel if you really work at it, you get better. The more you play, the better you play.
Absolutely.
So I think that might be mine. Because I don't think it really matters how tall you are when you play golf. So that also kind of helps. What about you? What would you do?
I'm going to go really realistic here. And I'm going to say curling. I'm going to go with curling. Yes. I think I could get that broom going the best of them.
But I also feel you're very hyper. We talk a little bit.
But that's if you're doing the broom, you can
you go too fast. What if you go too fast?
I could control it. I feel I could do it, and I feel if I have the right boots, I'm not going to slip on the ice. I feel it's something that I reasonably could work hard at and be very successful at. I think I could. I don't know about the whole thing where you have to slide through the ice with the stone
on your knee.
That might take a little bit of practice, but I feel that one could be somewhere where I could be successful. And if I strategically work at it, I could be a successful curler.
Yeah, I could see you doing that. I could see it. Is there professional curling leagues?
I'm sure there are. I've never been a part of it.
I only watch it in the Olympics, and it's amazing in the Olympics.
I also said on the podcast, and this might have been when we were talking about Winter Olympics, the third guy in the bobsled. I feel maybe I could do that. I couldn't be the one in the front or the one in the back, but
just the middle.
Maybe the third guy in the middle that just kind of hangs on for the ride. I know that I would have to work with Justyn on my running skills to push off, because I think that's probably the most important thing for the third guy in the bobsled. So curling is probably number one, but if I was going to go to number two for my professional, it would be the third guy in the bobsled.
Yeah, I feel curling also is a very non injury sport. I feel nobody's getting hurt curling, and you're really not.
You could, but it's infrequent.
Very, very unlikely. Okay. All right. Well, I think let's see what happens there. You know, well, I don't know if it's ever in the cards for us in this lifetime, but you never know.
We could think of it in our next life. So with that,
there we go.
Let's get on to Justyn and his professional career in running. So we'll be back after this.
Are you a loyal 5 Tips and Tricks podcast listener? If not, now is the time to start. Get all your info and fun content on the podcast by following us on all our social channels at @AthCareerPod. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting. Make sure to reach out to us. The one-stop shop for everything is our website, www.athcareer.com. Remember, follow and like us on @AthCareerPod, rate and review us, and get all your info at www.athcareer.com. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Maury, would you like to introduce our guest today?
Absolutely. Today's guest hails from Canada and is a professional long-distance running star. Born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, he took up distance running in high school, starting in grade 10 at St. Michael's College School. He won the 2013 Ontario Provincial Senior Cross Country title at the OFSAA Cross Country Championship. In 2014, he was recruited by Syracuse University, where he earned All-American honors in both track and cross country in 2015. He won the ACC Championship in 2017, and by 2018 had claimed 3 NCAA titles. He captured his first NCAA track title in the 5,000 meters and placed second in the 3,000 meters in the 2018 Indoor Championships. His international career took off when he made his World Championship debut at the 2017 in London, while still a student at Syracuse. There, he reached the finals and placed 9th overall in the 5,000 meters. In February, he won the gold medal in the Millrose Games in 3,000 meters and represented Canada in the 2021 Olympic Games in Tokyo. He currently is a member of the Nike Bowerman Track Club, and we are thrilled to welcome Justyn Knight to the podcast today. Welcome, Justyn.
Hi, Justyn.
That's a lot, Justyn.
You're so big time. You're so big time. You are so.
Thank you, Jen and Maury, for having me. Wow. Just, I guess I never really think about my accolades, but when they're read to me, I just feel like, wow, did I do all that? That's so cool.
It's special for Jen and I because when you were at Syracuse, we got to see you doing all those things. We were in the background with all the staff cheering you on. But
you were right outside my office. You were literally right outside my office.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a time! I can't believe. Wow, it's been a long time since I graduated.
I know.
So
yeah, absolutely.
It goes by so fast. It really does. It goes by fast. It feels like yesterday you were there. So.
Yeah, it really does. And I think the cool thing is that even though I graduated so long ago, I still feel like and I always will be part of the family. The new kids that are there, I feel like an automatic connection to them because we share that one thing, being a Syracuse Orangeman. It's really awesome.
Well, we appreciate that, and we're so excited for your success and so happy that you can join us and tell people kind of your thoughts on what it is to be a professional athlete, just not something that everybody gets to hear about all the time, and people that are aspiring to be involved in the world of athletics, and just hear your thoughts. So with that, what's a tip that you'd have to give someone that wants to do what you're doing?
You know what? The first tip I'm going to give you is probably a tip that some high schoolers and collegiates have heard me give them before, but I think it's an awesome tip, so I'm going to share it with you guys. I think the first one is to not wait for it to be your turn, but make it your turn. And
Absolutely.
I think when I was at Syracuse, a lot of people kind of look at my progression and they can't believe how, at least in track and field, times-wise, they saw me cut off a lot of time and improve and go from being the 7th best guy on the team to leading my team, being All-American and stuff. And one of the ways that I was able to accomplish that was I didn't look at all the people that were in front of me. As I said, I had 7, 8, maybe even 9 guys on the Syracuse team that was better than me.
Talented team. You were a very talented team.
Yeah. But I never once felt overwhelmed. I just thought wow, it's such an honor to be on this team, and who do I want to be like? And that guy in the moment was Martin Heher, who was our best guy on the team. And I had kind of blind eyes. All I was doing was just watching him, how does he move? What does he eat? How does he handle workouts and stuff? And, just being able to follow him and try to catch up to him and not wait for him to graduate was kind of what elevated me to be the guy I am today.
That's awesome. And what a good tip for people that may not even be a professional athlete, but also wanting to be in the world of athletics of you can't let it come to you. You have to kind of go to it. You have to find that inspiration that gets you ahead. Because it doesn't get handed out to you, right? It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort, and you need to look at those people that you respect and emulate and try and figure out what's making them be successful and bring that into your own world. So it's pretty incredible.
I think it's like anything, you know, whether you're competing or you're working in athletics, it's a competitive field. So it's not just everybody gets a chance, you know, so you got to make yourself stand out so that whether it's, you know, you get to be number one on the team or you get the opportunity on an internship or a job, you know, it's a competitive field all the way around. Everybody wants to work in sports. Everybody wants to be an athlete, but it's the people that succeed that make themselves stand out and put forth that effort. So I think that kind of can translate across not only for, you know, being an athlete, but also working in athletics. I think that's a really great tip.
So now that you're in like where you are now, being a professional, how do you take that same tip and use it for yourself as like a professional athlete that you've kind of developed this skill? Like how do you make sure that you're not getting behind, and how are you emulating? Like, what do you do nowadays?
You know, that's a great question. And I think for my journey, it's obviously it's been a while since I've been able to race after the Olympics. Like, unfortunately, I had to get surgery. Kind of, you know, it's this long story. If I tell the whole story, we might run out of time. I'll just leave it at that. But my journey's a little bit different now. Like, this is the first time where I had to, you know, obviously get surgery, do the rehab. I'm way behind. I had to learn how to walk again, then learn how to run again, and do all these things that I wasn't necessarily doing when I was younger. And I think like it's really easy to get discouraged. Like sometimes I see my competitors or I see my teammates and they're so much further ahead of me, right? I'm just learning how to run again. And these guys are like out here being phenomenal. Like, you know, we're sponsored by Nike, so we are the best of the best athletes and everything. And I'm not going to lie, even as a professional, like sometimes it was a little overwhelming for me and I would start to feel down, but I had to realize is like, you have to win your day. You can't be necessarily focused on what other people are doing. And I tried to take the same concept that I just explained to you and realize that, yes, my goal is still to be an Olympic gold medalist, but there's many different paths to get there. So I can't be necessarily looking at my teammates and being like, oh, I got to do exactly what they're doing. Maybe I got to cross train and do this, that, the next. And my path to the Olympics is going to be different, but we still like to look at who's number one and try to put it down. I'm sorry, that was a very roundabout answer.
No, it's awesome.
That was great. You compete with others and compete with yourself. You know, you try to compete with yourself. Like you said, win the day for yourself, and then you feel like you've succeeded at something. So I love that. That's great.
Awesome. That's an awesome first tip. Okay, what do you got for number 2? What would you give someone as a second?
I think the second tip that I'm going to give is, and I'm not sure entirely like how I want to phrase this, but the gist of it is that you can always learn something from somebody. You should never think that just because you're in a higher position than someone that they don't have something that they can teach you. And the example that I'll give with this is like when I got to Syracuse, my roommate, he was a walk-on the team. He wasn't on scholarship or anything. Still, you know, a pretty good athlete, but like he wasn't in our top 5, top 10. And, you know, I love that guy. He was awesome. Like he's a good guy. He's a really, really good dude. And I remember like there's times when I was a sophomore and I already kind of made myself to be like the number one guy on the team. And I used to ask my friend and my roommate / teammate. His name was Andy, actually. I don't know why I'm trying
I was going to say, you can say his name. Give him a shout out.
I don't know why I'm trying to dance around his name. His name is Andy. And when I used to ask Andy, like he would go race and he would never be in the same race as me. But, you know, I'd ask him about his race. And one, because I cared, because, you know, we were friends and I genuinely cared on how he did. But 2, I used to ask him about his races because I would be like, well, when you were in the back of the race and you felt trapped there and you need to get out and move up front, like, what did you do? What were some of the tactics that you had to display in the race to get to the front? Or, oh, when you were tired, you know, what did you do mentally to kind of keep yourself in the race? Or, you know, many different questions, right?
Yeah.
And me and Andy were in two very different positions at Syracuse, but there's a lot of times where he gave me advice on stuff. He might not even know this, actually.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Andy, if you're listening, thank you.
Yeah, Andy.
Thank you.
But he gave me so much good advice. And there was never an ego to it, because I never looked at Andy as lesser than me. And I always thought that, his opinion and his situation and his races were just as valuable as mine, just because he's going through something back here. Sorry, I'm off the, just because he's going through something back here doesn't mean I can't apply it to what I'm doing up here. So that would be the one area of advice too that I'd give.
No, that's great. I think of like, similarly when I was working with the lacrosse team, there would always be like one guy that was the face-off guy, right? The FOGO, the one that's like there. And that's usually like one person is the specialist for that. But everyone forgets there's like 2 or 3 other guys that are always trying to fight for that position.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remember how much time they spent together, and that number one starting guy would always talk to the other ones and say, well, why do you think this worked well? Or what do you think did worked better? Or if, you were doing this, how would you do it? And how much they like helped each other and grew from it. And it was never like a situation of like, well, I'm going to look down because they weren't the starting, like they're my backup. And I always thought like how much respect they had for each other and how much that made them better together. And I feel like that's the same kind of thing like you're talking about. Like you have to be open to the people around you and be like willing to engage with them and not think that you know everything because you're in a certain position.
I mean, I think you see that with like quarterbacks too, even in college and in NFL, like all the quarterbacks always hang out together on the sidelines, that they're always like got the earpiece in and they're all talking to each other. And like, so it's Patrick Mahomes, but the other guys on the sideline, he's talking to them the whole game. So I think that's a great point. And I think it's something you can think about too, again, to translate to people working in the industry as well. Even if you are a leader or a manager of a department, you can always learn from the people that are either under you or work directly next to you, because they might have a different perspective on something that you can be like, oh man, like that's the way I should think about it. So never feeling like you know it all or you're like better than, or like, oh, because you're up here, that they can't learn from anybody else that might be just a step behind or a step below. Like, I think that's a great point. So
some of the best ideas in my department came from people that worked under that were reported to me. So I appreciate that 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Andy, there you go.
Yes,
Andy. Thank you so much,
Andy.
Shout out to Andy.
We all need some Andys. We all need an Andy.
What do they say? Those that can't do, teach, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if I made that up or not.
No, I think it's a good one.
I think that's what it is.
Okay, Justyn, we're on a roll. Number 3, what would be your third tip to give somebody?
My third tip would be, I guess, like always work as if somebody's watching, right?
Absolutely.
And, so good.
And I think like there's a lot of times where it's easy sometimes to just go through the motions or nobody's really watching. So, I don't feel like doing this, so I'm just going to do it the way that's presentable or whatever. You should always give it your 100% effort. And I kind of have a story with that too. When I was in college in the summers, I used to work at a gym at my high school. And it's funny enough, actually, I don't know if you guys ever heard of BioSteel. Have you ever heard of BioSteel, the drink?
Wait a minute. Maybe. Yeah.
So the founder, the guy that created BioSteel, he's actually a good friend of mine. And he's also a strength and conditioning coach. Okay. And he used to function out of my high school. And a lot of the NHL players and OHL players will come back in the summer and work out with him and stuff like that. Like high quality players. You know who these guys are. And I remember one time he just messaged me on Twitter and he was just like, hey, Justyn, are you coming home this summer? I have a job for you. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm really qualified to do anything. Thank you for the offer, but maybe you should give it to somebody else. And he's like, no, you're perfect for this job. I want you to come back and like teach the NHL and OHL guys running mechanics. And I was just like,
that's awesome.
Okay, I mean, I'm still learning myself, but sure. But I went back and, running mechanics was I probably only did that maybe once a week. But everything else that I did, I was cleaning the locker room. I was doing the guys' laundry. I was making their smoothies. I was loading the plates for them when they're in the weight room. Anything, like just doing little busy stuff. And me and Matt, his name's Matt, we're really good friends to this day. And the one thing that he always told me is that he admired my work ethic.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the type of person that, you hired me for this job, so I'm only going to do this. Like, why are you asking me to sweep the ground and mop the floor and make people smoothies? Do you know who I am? Like, I was loving it. I was there to do a job. And anytime I finished anything, I'd run straight to Matt and say, Matt, is there anything else you want me to do? Oh yeah, you can go get us coffee. Run and get coffee.
Okay.
Matt, is there anything else you want me to do? And I think I highly encourage that for just people in the workplace in general. You'll never believe some of the relationships that you'll grow just from being a good person and also being a good work.
Right.
Some good person at work or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine when Nike or any of the companies that are looking to pick you up, they're looking at you as a full person, right? Like, and they talk about this, like the NFL does this, like you hear so often, like, well, that guy was good, in college, he was so good. Why didn't he get a higher draft pick? And you hear rumors of like, well, when there was a lot of conversation, he might not have been a good teammate, or his work ethic might not have been the same. And I can only imagine when people were like working with you to talk about your professional career, like they're looking at who you are as a whole person. And that I think shows the difference between what it is to be a professional who is a dedicated person, who works hard, who puts in that effort, whether someone's looking or not, and you don't even realize it, compared to the guy that's like, okay, well, I'm just going to put in my 5 minutes because that's what I was asked to do and turn around. So I can, it's not surprising that you're successful at what you do and people want you to be a part of their team because, you're working hard, and that's an example of it from what you did in college. So.
Thank you.
Well, knowing you, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, work ethic is something that sets people apart, and whether they're like really good at something or not, if they put all their effort into it. And we always say that to interns, like if you come early, if you stay late, like you show that you come when we need the extra set of hands, or somebody called out and you're willing to come in and work, like that's what sets you apart. We've been talking about how do you set yourself apart in a competitive industry across the board. Work ethic does that.
Exactly.
And like you said, like, yeah, you're one of the best runners in the world, but you're also willing to do whatever it takes. Like that sets you apart. Like that's why people want to work with you. And yeah, that's a great example for other people to see. So, and
I'll throw in another little of my own tips. Like if the person that's supervising you has to tell you or ask you to do it, you probably are too late because you should want to do that. Like your example of like how you were going to them and saying, how can I help you, is like such an example of who you are. But like the kind of person that people want to work in the industry of, like they're hungry to be successful and wanting to do stuff and like put it out there. And so like that's so important for any side of the professional part of being an athletics, whether you're a competitive athlete or whether you're a person supporting them. So, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
Killing the tips. Oh, yeah, number 4, Jen. I always get thrown off.
Number 4. We're
it's
on
so
number
good,
4.
I can't keep track. Okay, fourth tip.
Okay, the 4th tip. This one, I mean, there's so many different avenues that you can apply it. I'm gonna kind of give 2, but merge it to 1. One. I think you should always surround yourself with people that you want to be like, right? You don't want to put yourself in situations where like, someone that is not doing something right or whatever. You always want to be in the right group and be with people that you want to emulate. And the second one that I want to say is, I'm trying to think of how I could apply it to me as an athlete, which there's different ways that you could, but I think like you should always hire people for like what you lack. So if you're good at something, don't hire someone just like you to be
Oh, that's
You know
a
what I
good
mean?
point.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
It's not going to balance it. I mean, both of those make such a good point. Like you have to have quality people around you, and you have to have people that balance out what you might not be your skill set.
Exactly. Like you might have a coach that's really good at, writing the workouts and getting you into fitness and this, that, the next, but you might not be as in tune with like the science of sports and like recovery and this, that, the next. So like when you hire that assistant coach or whatever, like you want to hire the guy that's very scientific, that's always, you know what I mean? So it complements what you got.
They're going to balance out what you lack, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Make a strong team, like make that 100% team,
Exactly.
That's important.
I mean, I think about that sometimes in the people that I'm working with. It's like some of the people that are in my group, I feel like, okay, I might have a more strong, like a more hyper personality at times.
No,
like,
hyper? Maureen, never. No one would ever think that about you.
I don't know if hyper is a word or not, but like I feel like a lot
hyper
of times
I'll
go towards the people that are like maybe a little calmer and can like be in a situation where they can kind of sit back and be a little bit more mellow. And I feel like that works really well for my group, because I can be like, you know what, this person's going to react a lot better to someone that's maybe a little more passive. And so why don't you go work with that person? But I'm telling you, I need this person needs someone that's going to really be on them and be on top of that's my role. So
that's your role. That reminds me, like a lot of coaches do that. They always do like a good cop, bad cop.
Exactly.
Cool, it's like coach that everybody can talk to, and then there's the coach that's like all business.
Like strict and wants you to do everything. Yeah, exactly.
But to go back to the first part of your point, I will never hire anyone that I don't feel like is a good person to be around in the unit, or it's not going to work at all anyways.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We always say, like, I have to like you as a person, because in any type of sport, whether you're on a team or whether you're working in sports, like you're spending a lot of time with these people. If I don't like you as a person, or I don't feel like you're going to fit with our group, it's not going to work. So it's got to feel like a family. We said that, always feeling a part of a family. And that's what sports is in any aspect. So that's a big part of it. And you have to trust them and think that they have your best interests at heart. They're not there to take advantage of you. I'm sure that's a big thing for athletes. Like, you're working really hard. You want people that around you that are building you up, not pulling you back. So those are really good, important things for people to remember.
And at Syracuse, honestly, like I think Coach Fox and Coach Bell did a remarkable job of just recruiting athletes with like the same like-mindedness. Yeah. And if you really look back at it, if you look at the history of Syracuse cross country, I mean, we won NCAAs. I think it was 1954 or something like that.
It was in the 50s. I remember hanging the banner.
Yes. There was
I wasn't the one that did. I remember hanging the new banner, not the 54, like the original one.
He's not that old. He's not that old.
Not that old.
Not that old. But there was like a drought for a little while, like things happen. Sometimes teams go through droughts and stuff. And, they did a really good job of building the program back. And if you look at the recruits that we had that built the national championship team, a lot of them weren't like that 4-star. We never did stuff by stars anyways, but but they weren't like 4-star, 5-star athletes. Like a lot of them were like maybe 2.5, maybe 3. And I think the difference with us was like, we just had that work ethic. All of us, like none of us had an ego. We came in with a chip on our shoulder. We came in with the mentality like, we don't care if Colorado won 3 years in a row. Why can't we win this year?
Right.
And
prove yourself. Want to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and then you did it.
And you were super successful. So
then you did it.
And also, I wanted to give a shout out to, I think his name's Ben Anderson, maybe. He just got my mile record at Syracuse.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Oh, we're going to look at that one. I didn't see that one announced yet. That's really cool.
And I think, like, to be honest, as an alum, like, I'm never the guy that, listen, records were made to be broken, right?
Exactly.
Nobody's going to have a record forever. And it's like the most awesome thing when you're an alumni that you see, the younger generation, the people that you hope
succeeding,
you inspire.
Yeah.
Succeed, and like part of that's like breaking this old man's record.
Oh, that's awesome.
So shout out to I think it's Ben. I apologize if I get his name wrong, but I think he did phenomenal.
That's
We're gonna have to check it
incredible.
out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
Justyn,
last one.
Last big one. So what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So what do you know now at this point in your career that you wish you knew at the beginning of it?
You know what? For me, where do I begin, actually?
I was like, oh, I stumped him. Let's go.
Yeah. I think the one thing I wish I learned now, I knew back then that I do now, is just like everything that goes into taking care of your body and making sure that you're healthy. I was very blessed and fortunate. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I was talented and I worked hard for sure.
Right.
There's never a question in doubt of like how hard I worked, but there's certain areas where I felt like, looking back, that I definitely was not doing enough. And I can give you examples. Like, for one example would be that I never used to stretch at all.
Wow.
Stop it. You never stretched?
Never.
What? You literally just walked out there and ran?
I walked out there and ran. And literally, and this
oh my God, that's crazy.
This through my entire professional career, like up to the Olympics, I would just drop my bags and then go run and do my little warm up. I didn't do any sort of activations, no stretches, nothing. And
that's wild.
I really,
That's wild. That's crazy.
I'll never forget. I think it was in 2017. They're one of the best runners of all time. His name's Mo Farah. He runs for Great Britain. And this guy's like multiple-time Olympic gold medalist, whatever. And I remember meeting him for the first time. We had a good chat, and we were in the semifinal together. And he was really nice. He was my idol. Yeah. And after the semifinal, and having that good conversation with him, he saw me warming up for the final, and I just did my run, and then I was just standing there, just like playing with my fingers and like twiddling my thumbs. And he's just like, "Are you done your warm up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just waiting now." And he's like, "You're not going to do any activations?" And I was like, I don't know what to do.
Nope.
Just to kind of get it back on point, like it really took me going through injury to realize like all the preventative stuff that you can do when you're healthy to make sure that you don't get injured and to make sure that your body's moving right. And, I hate to say it, but I was definitely that athlete where I was just like, I'm never going to get old. My bones are made out of steel, and
it's a lot of athletes.
Yeah. It's a lot of people in general think that. I mean, it's not just athletes.
Wait till you hit 40.
Yeah, it's all downhill, Justyn. It's all downhill.
Right now, I feel like I'm 40, but
oh my God, you're a baby. You're a
Don't
baby.
worry about it.
Yeah, but it's just like knowing that things can be going great, but knowing that you got to prepare for the worst, and you got to prepare yourself that you can keep up with greatness and not be comfortable with what you're doing. And for me personally, that's just like with stretching, drinking water, hydrating, all that type of stuff. Goes a long way. So that's me.
Well, that is
I love
awesome. That. Justyn, you killed this. We
I
cannot
know,
thank you enough for being on this with us. Time flew by. We didn't even know that it went on. So thank you. I don't know. Do you have any socials or anything that you want to promote that you're doing that you'd like to say out to those people that are listening to the podcast?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you can always follow me on Instagram. It's Justyn, JUSTYN. .night. I try to post.
You got some good stuff on there. Yeah,
I got some good stuff on there, and definitely this season, we're racing this season. It's been almost 4 years since I've raced, unfortunately, but this year we're ready to go after it. So if you want to follow my journey,
we're gonna be watching and cheering you on from up in Syracuse. So
and make sure you come back again and visit, and we'll catch up. I know you love to come back, and we love to have you. I know we love to have you. So thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks, Justyn. And for everyone out there, thank you for joining us at the podcast today. Please make sure to follow us on all our social platforms and follow us on all of your podcast platforms. Jen, do you want to throw out all of our handles?
Yep. So on social, it's at @AthCareerPod. So make sure you're doing all that. We appreciate it, and follow us for all the content and whatnot. And again, this was such a great conversation. So thanks everybody, and thank you, Justyn.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.